For today's video essay, we are going to talk to you about a transmitting technique called spread spectrum. You are listening to Andoni Diaz and Adrián Enrique. So, on this video we're going to talk about spread spectrum, a technique which consists of transmitting a signal on a considerably bigger bandwidth compared to its frequency. Furthermore, we will also discuss its history, advantages, modern challenges, and its evolution. For you see, even though this is pretty old tech, it's from World War II, like many others of the period, is still very relevant on the modern world. So the spectrum is this thing that we're seeing on screen right now, upon which we can see various points, which are signals being broadcasted throughout the air. They are electromagnetic signals. They are radio station most likely. So as we can see, they have peaks, and there's some space between them, and then we have the noise below them. So we can see very clear where upon this spectrum are these signals being transmitted. So if they are being transmitted at 1000 megahertz or like 2000 megahertz, 100 megahertz, etc. It's very clear definition. This is because they are being transmitted by a method which is called narrowband. So we have the narrowband signal level we see on screen, and then we see how it slowly fades away, which is very easy to see, very easy to intercept, very easy to detect, basically. So again, just to make things clearer, here we have a very small graph explaining the power spectral density, the frequency, and there we have the narrowband, which stands out from the broadband signal, which is what we're going to be talking about in this video, and the noise. So again, it's very clear to see. It's there, like it pops through the noise. So now about the spread spectrum. As we briefly mentioned, this is a technique for telecommunications, which is distant communications, and it's military. It was initially a military project, which consisted again on spreading a signal over a large frequency band. The essence of the technique is that by using a larger frequency band and not incrementing the signal's power, as we saw in the previous graph, we understand what power is. It will then be masked by the noise already on that channel, on that portion of the spectrum, and thus the peak of the signal would be unrecognizable, making it harder to be jammed or intercepted. Regarding the history and discovery time of this technique, the technique was designed around the 1940s during war times by the inventor and actress Hedy Lamarr, in association with composer George Antheil. Their intention was to create a very robust and secure radio guidance system for torpedoes. Its patent was filed in 1942, however it would not be used for commercial purposes for up to 40 years later, until around the 1980s. Most of the work done in spread spectrum throughout the 50s, 60s and 70s was still heavily backed by the military and drowned in secrecy. However, nowadays, the popular GPS system is now the world's largest single spread spectrum system. Most of the details on GPS are now public information. Spread spectrum was first used for commercial purposes in the 1980s, when Equatorial Communications of Mountain View CA used direct sequence for multiple access communications over synchronous satellite transponders. Later, during that same decade, the US FCC opened the ISM frequency bands for unlicensed spread spectrum communications, further presenting this technique to the wider public. It's important to mention that Nikola Tesla, the radio inventor, filed a US patent granted on March 17, 1903, which doesn't mention the phrase frequency hopping or spread spectrum directly, but certainly alludes to it, entitled Method of Signaling. The patent describes a system that would enable radio communication without any danger of the signals or messages being disturbed, intercepted, or interfered with in any way.